Welcome to my hashtag Survivor Series Q&A. I've taken this Q&A and broke it up into a few different sections based off of the type of questions I received for this, and got a lot of questions and a lot of really good questions. So it might be a lengthier Q&A, but I felt so many good questions that a lot of them deserve to be answered. I've broken it up into Survivor Series 2013 as one category, Survivor Series 1997 as another, other past shows, best and worst of Survivor Series, and then other general Survivor Series questions. So I'm going to start off with Survivor Series 2013. At Ghost HPM kicks this off. Why does WWE keep picking Dumb Dick Florida songs as their Survivor Series theme? I kind of think Dumb Dick's kind of my word, brother. No, that's a great question. I don't fucking know. What the hell? Florida, eat a dick. I don't want to hear his damn music. At Mr. Mike Laws, how would you have packaged the last 2 months for Survivor Series? Probably two big changes I personally would have made is I maybe would have had one last match between Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan here for the title, because their feud really started after SummerSlam. As a result, I would have maybe made this the culmination, this the big blow off. It would have been 3 months. It would have been a lengthy program in part due to the standards of today's WWE, but I think you could have pulled off one more big match between the two at Survivor Series. And then I would have actually maybe waited until Survivor Series to have John Cena come back and face ADR for the title. That probably would have been the two big changes I would have made. At _Deluxeman, what are the chances we'll get a repeat of Survivor Series 1998 this Sunday, with Big Show becoming the WWE corporate champ? 50-50. I've thought about that a little bit too, Deluxeman. Honestly, I've been thinking about that. I'm like, a lot of this sets up to where they could potentially do that and really swerve us. That would be very creative. I don't anticipate them doing that, but stranger things have happened. I could see that happening. That is a possibility. At WWE ZD14, were you frustrated with the lack of announced matches for this year's card? A little bit. It's kind of one of those things where I know from my perspective a Survivor Series card should have no more than 5 or 6 matches, but that's in part because I'm still a believer in the old traditional Survivor Series format where maybe every match but one is a big tag team match, so those matches tend to go longer. Where if you have only maybe 4 announced matches and only 2 of them are tag matches, come on now. At Alexander Brady, what do you think about seeing JoJo and Eva Marie compete in the Divas match? Yeah. I guess. The WWE really wants to push this Eva Marie bitch, and that's what she is, a bitch. And, as far as JoJo, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why she's getting a spot here. But you know what? They're part of the Total Diva show, so as a result, you're going to feature these two in a big spot in one of your big 4 pay-per-views in this match. So what the hell, why not, I guess. Now we move on to Survivor Series 1997, and ultimately any talk of any Survivor Series always seems to gravitate towards Survivor Series 1997. Javier Artabo, asked the first question. What were your expectations for Brett versus Shawn at 97, and what were your initial reactions to the Screwjob? At the time, I really didn't pay attention to internet-type shit. I really didn't. I had a couple of friends that were watching wrestling too at the time, just like I was, that were letting me know that there were rumblings that Brett was leaving after Survivor Series to go to WCW. So my expectations were potentially very awkward match with some type of really screwy finish where Shawn walked out with the title. I didn't know how they were going to arrive to it. I don't know what they were going to do. I just had a feeling it was going to be a very odd show and a very screwy show. And my initial reaction to the Screwjob, it pissed me off a little bit. It really did. It really, really did. Mind you, back then I was 16 years old, so half the man I am now. And, I think about it back then when I was 16 years old. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? Why would you have Brett go into this show if you're going to have him leave the company anyways? Why would you have him go into the show with the damn belt? I've always thought it was a work, and I still do. But my initial reaction was, this is really stupid. I never was a huge Brett fan, but I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? but I was also interested to see where they were going to go from there, frankly. So it was a multifaceted kind of reaction. At Orton G. Armstrong, if Brett had gone over Survivor Series 1997 and dropped the belt the next night, how different would wrestling be today? Tremendously different. There's no doubt, because Brett would have just been a guy leaving, so he did the honors on the way out, as opposed to having the honors be done for him on the way out. Business would be tremendously different. How tremendously different? Who knows? How to quantify that? I don't really know, but it would be tremendously different for sure. At Sterniker, how differently would wrestling be without the Montreal Screwjob? Again, entirely different. I mean, this was really the ultimate catalyst that truly sprung the Attitude Era into full steam ahead. You know, that made Shawn the hottest heel, or the second hottest heel in the wrestling business behind Vincent K. McMahon. You know, it was one of those things that you look back on it now, and so many things and so many stars aligned so perfectly for the WWF at the time. It would be entirely different without the Montreal Screwjob. At Mr. Nice Hangover, how would you have booked the Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart Survivor Series match of 1997? One big change I would do kind of ties into what Vonnie Questif asked. If you were Vince, how would you have handled the Montreal Screwjob? And very simply, I wouldn't have a guy who's about to leave my company go into one of my most important shows of the year with the title with anything to chance. I would have either had Brett drop the strap at the pay-per-view before, or if I would have had him drop it on a Raw or a house show or whatever the fuck the case might be. If I got to strip him of the damn title if he's not going to do the job, then so fucking be it. I'm not going to sit there, you know, intentionally and go into that big show with my belt at risk, with the guy holding the belt trying to hold me hostage with that title, threatening to leave the company, you know, with the title, not doing the job. The whole thing about Brett was going to come on and do the next job the next night off. In that time frame, Bret Hart's full of shit, and he knows it. And we know that we wouldn't have believed him either, and we wouldn't have trusted him either, because he wasn't under contract anymore. This is going under the same context of 2 years earlier, Alundra Blaze going on to Nitro and dropping the woman's title in the trash. You know, this is also on the heels of Rick Rude appearing on both Raw and Nitro in the same night. So the bottom line is, how would you have handled the Montreal Screwjob? I would not have had Brett walk into that damn pay-per-view that night the champion, period. You still could have done the Screwjob. It just would have been Brett was trying to chase the belt and he got screwed out of winning the belt. That's it. All right, now we move on to some of the specific questions about other Survivor Series over the years. At Matt Prod asked, what did you think of Survivor Series 1998, and did you think that The Rock should have beaten Mick Foley? Back at that time, yes, I was more into The Rock than I was Mick Foley, so I was happy that The Rock became the corporate champ. What did I think of that pay-per-view? It was okay. I got the concept. I like the concept. You know, having a tournament at a Survivor Series does seem to make a lot of sense. But it also leads to a lot of short matches. Not my favorite Attitude Era pay-per-view of all time, but not one of the worst either. At T-Bar121, what's your opinion of Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series 2005 and the story building up to it? You know, frankly, not a lot of opinion on it one way or another. I'm just keeping it the way it is. You know, at least when you're talking about doing Survivor Series and having Raw versus SmackDown, at least that made a lot of sense. But I was at a time in 05, 06, 07 where my interest in the product waned significantly. I was very in and out on it. One week I'd watch, the next week I wouldn't, then maybe I'd watch for 3 weeks, then I wouldn't watch for a month. Just, you know, I'd go back and watch highlights and catch bits and pieces. I keep up with the results, but I wasn't that much into the product. So I don't really have a lot of thoughts on that match at this time. The story leading up to it, none of that. At Dynasty 215, as much as we love tournaments in the IWC, YWC, and we do, was the Deadly Games tournament the death of the Survivor Series concept? No, I don't think so. No. Because you could argue that that Deadly Games tournament fit perfectly into the Survivor Series concept, even though it wasn't a tag team thing, because it still ultimately was very much about being the ultimate survivor, so to speak. At XX, John Gleason XX asks maybe my favorite question of this entire Q&A. Is Chuck Norris super kicking Jeff Jarrett straight to hell the greatest moment in not just Survivor Series history, but wrestling history? It definitely ranks at the very, very top of my Survivor Series favorite moments, brother, and maybe one of my favorite moments in wrestling history. He roundhouse kicked that blonde-headed Memphis mid-card piece of shit. It was fucking awesome. It was so badass. At Callum_Hiller, what did you think of Paul Heyman aligning with Big Show at Survivor Series 2002? Oh, I fucking hated that. It was so goddamn stupid. You spent 5 months shoving the biggest rocket ship up Brock Lesnar's ass you possibly ever could. You have him beat The Rock at SummerSlam 2002 to lose the belt to Big Show 3 months later because Paul Heyman turned on Rock. So stupid. That pissed me off. You could smell it coming. You could see it coming. It was so predictable. It pissed me off all the hell. It still does thinking about it this. It was so stupid. At World of Chelsea, what did you think of the Steve Austin getting run over angle that started the 99 Survivor Series? At the time, I thought it was very interesting. I remember watching that pay-per-view live. I'm like, what the hell did they do that for? I'm like, how long is Austin going to be out for? What the hell are they doing here? I thought it was a cool thing to do, and it was an interesting way to write him off of TV for a long period of time, and it really had me wondering what they were going to do. At D_Rizzle, how would you have booked the main event of 2001 if all the top WCW stars had been brought in? 2 things. 1, I would have made sure that top WCW guys actually would have been in the match. But 2, I wouldn't have had this be the end of the angle. You have to run that angle at least till WrestleMania 18. But if you're asking me what 5 WCW stars I would have put in that main event, it would have been Hogan, Hall, Nash, Sting, and then for the 5th one, you could have put a young guy in there, maybe like a Booker T. I'd have been okay with that. So Hogan, Hall, Nash, Sting, and then maybe Booker T. Those might have been my 5 guys. Or you could take Booker T out and you could throw DDP in there. If you had to throw Sting out, you could put Goldberg in there. I mean, there are a lot of different possibilities. But anything other than what the fuck the WWF did. I had anything go show WWE. What was your first reaction to the gobbledygook? When I found out after the pay-per-view that after months of building up to this, they had a turkey come out of the egg, I had the same reaction that I have now. You got a set of legs like my mother-in-law, pal. My favorite thing about that still to this day is Roddy Piper's legit shoot reaction when he goes, ah! Ah! So now we move on to best and worst. At EvGriff74 asks, I'll make this quick. What's your favorite traditional Survivor Series match? Ooh. Favorite? Good question. I'm not really sure, frankly. At AGS WWE, your favorite traditional Survivor Series match and show? Favorite show might be 2002. That ranks very, very high on the list that I could think of at this moment. At Willie Haywood 3, what's the best and worst Survivor Series main events ever? The worst to me, and again, my opinion, my perspective, and mine alone. So if you don't like it, eat shit, people. I don't care. It's my perspective. Best and worst Survivor Series main events ever. Worst to me by far has to be Survivor Series 2001. It's gonna be WWF versus Alliance, and the last 2 people fighting for WWF and then WCW/ECW are gonna be Stone Cold and The Rock. Fuck that shit. Fuck everything that match represented. Fuck it. Best Survivor Series main event ever. Because of the implications for the business, because of what happened afterwards. Gotta go with Survivor Series 1997. Let's face it, there are a lot of Survivor Series that you don't remember what main evented that show. Let's keep it really real here. You always remember what main evented Survivor Series 1997. At Hayes O'Keefe, what was the worst WWE Championship match at Survivor Series? Oy, oy, oy. I'm trying to think here. So I know I'm drawing a blank. I should have looked back a little bit because I've forgotten some of the Survivor Series stuff. One of my least favorite, I will say, ironically enough, it features my two favorite wrestlers of all time, is Survivor Series 91, Hogan versus Taker. That's one of my least favorite. What's your favorite WWE Championship match to ever happen at a Survivor Series? Favorite WWE Championship match to ever happen at a Survivor Series? Again, I'm drawing a blank here. Maybe I should have looked at some of these questions beforehand. I'm drawing a blank. I mean, it's been 2 years since I did the Survivor Series review series. Yeesh, WWE Championship. I can't really tell you. Sorry, man. Should have had a better answer. Maybe I'll answer it in the comments section when I get time to think about it a little bit more. At Caleb is God, what's the best and worst Survivor Series shows? Maybe the worst Survivor Series show I could think of might have been like maybe 93. Yeah, maybe 93. Best might be 2002. I thought that was a really damn good Survivor Series show. At Bumbling Idiot, where would you rank Triple H versus Flair last man standing match at Survivor Series 2005? That would easily be in my top 10 best Survivor Series matches, maybe in my top 5. At Abel E. Herrera, what's your favorite Survivor Series title win? What's your least favorite Survivor Series title win? Favorite Survivor Series title win would probably be, least favorite might be Big Show in 2002. That might be my least favorite of all time. I can't really think of a favorite off the top of my head. Hogan winning the belt back from Taker at Survivor Series 91 would be another one of my least favorites of all time. There you go. Yeah, so sorry to some of you that asked specific best and worst questions. Maybe I should have thought about this a little bit more, but I'll try and answer those questions maybe in the comments section or whatever. Now we get to the last part of this Q&A, which is just general Survivor Series questions. At Desiization, where did it all go wrong for the WWE with Survivor Series not making the show feel big and having the SummerSlam or Survivor Series tag matches? Yeah, that's just one of those things that they slowly gravitated in the 90s away from having the traditional, every match on the card or most matches on the card or big tag team matches they started to really whittle away at it, make it feel like any other pay-per-view with a bunch of singles matches. Then when they were doing that freaking pay-per-view, what the hell was that called that would come right before? Was that Bragging Rights? Yeah, that would come on right before Survivor Series, which would seem to have been taking away a lot of the luster from Survivor Series. There were a lot of things that they did. At Kyle Garner 92, if you could build the ultimate all-time 5-on-5 faces versus heels, who would you put on each side? I am going to go with WWF/WWF/WWE heels and faces only. Just keep that in mind. So that's going to leave a lot of people out. But I'm going with those criteria there. On the babyface side, you are going to have Hogan. You are going to have Austin. You are going to have Rock. You're going to have Bruno Sammartino. And you're going to have Mr. Bob Backlund. You don't like it, suck a dick. On the heel side, you're going to have Andre the Giant. Let's see here. On the heel side, you are going to have Ted DiBiase. You are going to have Superstar Billy Graham. You are going to have Vince McMahon. And then, yes, for a little bit of comedy relief, but because of his greatness as a heel manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Pretty good 5-on-5 tag match, if you ask me. A lot of names that were left out, like I said, but those would be the 5-on-5 that I would pay the most money to go see. At Man Rakita Bako 1, do you believe that WWE will soon drop the ball in Survivor Series with Extreme Rules winning out in terms of pay-per-view buys? It could happen. I mean, they really already have dropped the ball in Survivor Series by, again, like I talked about, whittling away at the originality and the uniqueness of the Survivor Series concept and just making it like any other pay-per-view. You know, this was one of these pay-per-views that had its own freaking gimmick to it. And the WWF/WWE and all their wisdom and logic decided to whittle away at that. But now they go back to trying to have every pay-per-view have its own damn gimmick to it. But then they make it vanilla and plain across the board. Oh. At Chase Oliver 68, do you feel like Soul Survivors were good ways to build up guys in the past? Yes. I mean, you think about that. You could have a guy be the sole survivor of his one match. And then, you know, when you talk about John the JDM in his question, do you think an Ultimate Survivor concept would be cool to do in this day and age? Fuck yes, I do. You want to build a new star. Like, imagine when you're bringing Ryback along and you have him plow through 4 people in a Survivor Series match. And then he goes back at the end of the night and he ends up being the Ultimate Survivor. That makes him a huge star instantly. Instantly. Just think about that. At Twins of Sanity, with the successful debuts of Taker, Rock, Angle, and Elimination Chamber, should guys and concepts debut more at Survivor Series? I would be all for that. I think more guys should debut at Big 4 pay-per-views, frankly. At Zero Cool 1389, do you think... Do you think Sid versus Sin Cara should main event a Survivor Series in the future? A Survivor Series? Or every Survivor Series? On one condition. As long as it was an off the turnbuckle over the top rope battle royal. Guaranteed. You don't want to tell beforehand to go break a leg. Alright. Alright, AJ Bella Army Lee. That's an interesting sort name. In my opinion, Randy Orton is Mr. Survivor Series. What? He's Mr. Survivor Series. Oh my god. Oh my god. He's Mr. Survivor Series. Alright. Is it the sleeve tattoos, the raging ring boner, the construction worker beard, the baby oil, or a combination of all in the awesome ring pose that makes a Mr. Survivor Series? Who do I think might be Mr. Survivor Series? Maybe Bret Hart. At D Extreme OTRS Fool Killer 99, should Survivor Series be the one pay-per-view where the champion shouldn't defend their belt and instead captain Survivor Series teams? If you were going to do it at one, absolutely at this one. Yeah, I would definitely say so. I would like that very much because it would also give you a rest from always having to book the championships every pay-per-view. It's funny, so many people in the business say the titles are props and they don't mean anything, and only marks think they mean something. Yet the companies seem to think the world of them because they always book them on every fucking pay-per-view. Seriously. The hypocrisy of wrestling sometimes is astounding. And we round out this Q&A with my favorite question. A dream 5-on-5 comedy match. Let's take one team. Dream 5-on-5 comedy match. Shockmaster. Gobbledygooker. Bastion Booger. Mantar. And Master Blaster. Versus Psycho Sid. Sin Cara. Dino Bravo. Billy Jack eats. Oh. If I don't need anything else, throw Santino Marella in. What the hell? That would be entertaining. That would be a fucking classic match, period. Thanks to all of you that submitted your Survivor Series Q&A questions for this train wreck of a Q&A. I hope I got enough of you to stay through this boring thing long enough to watch the entire thing. The more Survivor Series shit coming up later this week. Hopefully the pay-per-view doesn't blow chunks Sunday night. Bye.